So I will call the meeting to order. Today is Thursday, April 8th, 2021, and this is a meeting of the Pioneer Valley Regional School District School Committee. The meeting is being recorded by Bernardston-Northfield Community Television for future broadcasts, and also it is being streamed live via the Facebook link that was on the agenda. I do not believe that we have any citizens that signed up to speak today. And John, you weren't aware of any from Joanne at the last minute, right?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. And I'm sorry that I forget. Did we do a roll call at the beginning?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So we will begin here. We have Jim Bell.
Here.
We have Raina Dastu.
Present.
We have Alan Genovese.
Present.
Michelle Giarusso, she's not here yet. We have Jeannie Milton.
Present.
We have Robin Knipe.
Here.
Nathan Schwartz.
Here.
Michael Townsley.
Here.
And Stephanie Winslow, our new member.
Here.
David Young.
Here.
Sorry, Karen, go ahead.
I'm here too.
Oh my goodness, somehow I missed Karen O'Neill. I'm so sorry, thank you. You noticed I was going in alphabetical order and skipped over. Thank you, Karen. And obviously Julie Burke is here. Okay, so since there's no citizens' comments, we can begin with approval of the minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review them? And if so, are there any corrections?
Yep.
So I just wanted to remind everyone, you can go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to speak. I see Karen O'Neill has a raised hand. Go ahead, Karen.
Okay. The first set of minutes, it says it was a Thursday, but it was a Tuesday.
What date was that, Karen?
February 9th. Okay. That's all I have on the 9th.
Okay.
On the 11th, there were some people present who weren't on the list. One is Ernest Abraman. Is that how you pronounce his name? And
Yeah. Yes.
and Kevin McEwen. And hereafter, his name is misspelled in several sets of minutes. His last name is capital M, small c, capital K, E-O-W-N. And Russell was present as well. Okay, on page 2, under 4. The superintendent's report, first line, I think he wanted to report back, not report talk. Right? There weren't any rumors going around about these people.
I think you're probably right, Karen.
Okay. And let's see. On page 5. Large paragraph in the middle. Third line down. I don't think, Raina, you meant to have a not in there at the beginning because there's a not later. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And on page 6, I'd just like to clarify number 8. In the third line down, actually fourth line down, that's an incomplete sentence. And it should finish by saying the second meeting would be canceled. It starts if all the agenda items are handled on the first meeting. It should continue, the second meeting would be canceled. And the next sentence should start with, if necessary, the second meeting would be held on the third Thursday of the month. Okay? Anybody else have something for that one?
floor the superintendent report.
All right, great. I'd like to start by saying Ryan Potter is going to be joining the meeting around 7:30. And so if we can just come back to him at some point after he joins, he'd like to say a few words and update everybody about some activities with the students. So we were very excited to welcome all our elementary students back this past Monday to full-time in-person learning. It's great to see all the students in the building. Things went well. We have our middle and high school students, grades 7 through 12, returning Monday, April 26th after the April vacation week. So we're looking forward to them returning as well. This past month, Claire Brennan and Lauren Clary both received the 2021 Grinspoon Excellence in Teaching Award. So congratulations to them. There was an article in the Greenfield Recorder. We're very proud of them and all our teaching staff. Each of the recipients were given a certificate for the award, balloons, and a bouquet of flowers. Lauren Clary, if you don't know, she's been on these meetings at times as a 5th grade teacher at Bernardston Elementary School. And Dr. Carrier says Lauren goes above and beyond for her students, delivering materials to their homes during remote learning and planning fun educational activities. I've been in Lauren's classroom several times this year and in the past, and she is a delight to watch teach and interact with the children. She's just fantastic. So congratulations, Lauren. And Claire Brennan has taught in the district for 20 years. She's an 11th and 12th grade English teacher at Pioneer. She's also the co-chair of the Pioneer Valley Regional Education Association. Principal Burke says Claire does outstanding work and her commitment to her students is extraordinary. She's another teacher that has gone above and beyond, like many of our staff during COVID, delivering work to students' home. It's just a pleasure having both Lauren and Claire in our district. We're very fortunate to have teachers at this level teaching in our district and being so committed to our students in our district. So, I just want to say the awards are well deserved, and we're very thankful that they are working here. The award has been gifted to educators in the Pioneer Valley since 2003, thanks to the Harold Grinspoon Charitable Foundation in partnership with the Irene E. and George A. Davis Foundation. This year, awarded educators will be able to attend a virtual celebration for excellence in teaching award winners in May. And the program features the presentation of the individual awards, and the winners will receive an engraved plaque and a check for $250. So congratulations, Lauren and Claire, for receiving the award. It's quite an honor. I know they were excited, and we were excited to give it to them. So congratulations. And so if we just make time when Ryan comes back, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Yes, we'll absolutely make time when Ryan is able to join. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that we did not have audio at the very beginning of the meeting. Tyler has responded that for the Facebook Live, that the audio is back up and running. We apologize. He was having technical issues with his laptop, but it now should be up and running. Please, someone let me know. I will be monitoring the Facebook feed as often as I can in case there are any questions or there are any technical difficulties. What we did go through prior to the audio working properly, we called the meeting to order. I asked if there were any citizens' comments, and no one had signed up to speak this evening. And then we went through the approval of the minutes from February 9th, February 11th, February 25th, March 11th, and March 23rd. Karen had several notations of things to be amended, which were noted. Raina also had a suggestion on something, an amendment, and then the approval of the minutes were passed by the committee. And then the audio came back up. So I just wanted to recap for everyone. So next we have the Director of Finance report. So Tanya is up.
All right, good evening, guys. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. While I'm doing that, does anybody have any questions on the accounts payable that was presented for April 9th? any of the checks, totals, funds, anything like that? Okay, so Julie will sign for us. If you could just make sure you use that signature and get that done before 10 o'clock tomorrow morning so that she can get those checks sent out. And you can do that electronically. And sorry, my volume's probably not up high enough. You can do that electronically and then just make sure that you drop the original, excuse me, the office at your earliest convenience. So we have a pretty long agenda, so I'm going to try to make this short and sweet as possible. Our April financials, our revenue report, I'll go ahead and I'm going to try to make these as big as I can so you guys can see them because I know it's difficult. We're still on track with all of our revenues. Nothing much has changed here. Obviously, as each month goes by, our earnings from investments is a little more than what we budgeted the prior month. Again, because we have with our E&D that we have certified, obviously we have a little more cash flow than the district is used to. So other than that, everything is pretty much on track here. We are still waiting for the tuition reimbursement, or not tuition reimbursement, the transportation reimbursement from the state. But we having conversations with Jay Sullivan as to what that reimbursement percentage is. And I actually will touch base on that a little bit later when we talk about the additional budget documents that I sent out. So we should be seeing some reimbursements on that soon. So we're good to go for this year and no worries with our revenues. I won't go through the full expenditure report. I'll do like I did last meeting. Our expenditures by category are all where they need to be. Again, we're still just kind of keeping an eye on facilities because we're doing more in-house than contracting out for some of our things. So what will happen in May is I will have cleanup for our facilities. So I'll have a transfer to get the supplies lines in order and take from the contracted services. But like I mentioned before, I just don't want to have facilities on there every meeting for, a few $100 there, a few $100 here, but we are monitoring the totals within the facilities and some other lines as well, but we are in good shape. So if anybody has any questions or concerns, I'm happy to answer them. I don't see any hands. We all make sure that if there was a purchase order put in, that our staffing is making sure those orders are put in, and if there's something that they no longer need or they've completed all of their purchases from that purchase order, we're looking at closing those out so that as we go into May, we're looking at what we have for available funds at the end of the year and doing that assessment for year-end transfers that might be necessary. So we're working on that right now, and we've set our deadlines for the end of the year for things like purchase orders and ordering and so forth, so that we can have hopefully a cleaner year end than last year, and we won't be in the COVID situation we were either trying to get ahead and we know what we have for funding. So things are looking good. So I will go ahead and close out of those. With that, the only transfers that I do have, and neither of them require a vote. We are just transferring some funds in our special needs elementary private tuition line that were in there actually as contingency over to our local line because there were some variances in those tuitions for the year once they actually came in when those kids were actually back in person full time. So those are just a couple small cleanups. But no vote is needed on those because they're in our special ed, within the special ed department. So I'll make those journal entries after this meeting, but just informational purposes only. Anybody have any questions there? All right. Mike, unfortunately, is not able to attend the meeting this evening, so I am going to go through the lunch report really quickly. For March, I don't know if Joanne has the DESI report on here, but I'll look real quick and see if it's in there for the number of meals served. But again, we're still doing well with our lunch department. We've got of $109,000. This our technical claim balance, our accrued expenses that were paid on this warrant for the March expenses was the $14,980, and then we still have that $10,000 sitting there for summer salaries. So once all of those things are paid, if our year was to be closed right now, we would be closing our books in the positive 84,000. The number of meals we're serving is up. We've got open sites. We're getting meals out to as many, children in the community. And Mike's doing a lot of great things. He was able to get those other sites open in Warwick and Leiden. So lots of good things going on with food service. And I think our community is really happy with the services we've been able to provide through there. Let me just check real quick to see if the report is on here for the amount of lunches we served. I don't know that month was 14,973 meals. Half of that being breakfast and the other half being lunch. So we're serving a lot of families in our community, which is really good. So that's all I have for right now as far as the financial report. So if you guys don't have any further questions, I'll turn it back over to Julie. Good? All right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tanya. And I just saw that Michelle joined. Hi, Michelle. Welcome. All right. So next up are the subcommittee reports. So first we have the negotiation subcommittee, and Raina, you're the chair.
Yeah, the negotiations subcommittee has not met, so there's nothing new to report.
Okay, thank you, Raina. Building and grounds, I think that there's an upcoming meeting, correct? I'm not sure if you've met in between.
No, upcoming meeting on that, on the 15th. That's been posted.
Okay, April 15th. Curriculum and personnel.
Hi, we haven't met since my last report, which was about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, thanks, Karen. Budget subcommittee.
We haven't met since the last budget vote that we had. So the only thing that we did have was, I believe it was Tuesday. It wasn't a committee. John, Tanya, Rick Kingsley, myself, and Julie had a conversation, but we'll discuss that in a little bit when it comes up with the transportation and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Policy subcommittee.
Yes, this is Karen again. We did meet. We met with Tracy Novick on March 30th. She's from MASC, Mass Association of School Committees. And we reviewed the policy sections F, which are facilities development, and G, personnel. Our next meeting will...
Karen, I'm sorry. I just want to remind everyone to press mute. I think I hear some children in the background, and while that's so heartwarming to hear, we just want to be able to hear the speakers. Thank you.
Okay, our next meeting will be May 11th to review the final section on negotiations and to ask if any remaining questions or final changes need to be made before Tracy produces a draft of our total revision. Yay!
That's a lot of work. Thank you. Nathan, you have a raised hand. Looks like you're on mute, Nathan. Oh, there you go.
Sorry, that was accidental.
Okay, thank you. Alan, I think you just need to mute. We're hearing some feedback there.
It is so quiet here, you could hear a pin drop.
I know. I don't know why we're hearing an echo. Thank you. District Agreement Subcommittee.
Hi, this is Michelle. We met twice, the latest being last evening. And we went through the entire district agreement, and now Russell is sending it back to DESE to have them look one more time. And then it will be coming to the full committee.
All right, thanks, Michelle. And then the Warwick Transition Committee.
I'll take that. This is Karen again. We received revisions from the Warwick subcommittee of the subcommittee, and we have sent them on to Russell for review, and we're in the process of setting up our next meeting within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you. So it's a little past 7:30, and John, I'm not sure if Ryan has arrived yet. I just wanted to check back in.
Yeah, I don't see him on here yet. I'm keeping an eye out for him.
Okay, great. Feel free to interrupt me,
Okay.
in between when you see him arrive. I want to make sure he has the opportunity to talk. And then for new business, we have the Abigail Stratton Fund donation of $300. I believe, Tanya, were you going to speak to this?
Yeah, so this one and the next item, actually, excuse me, my Florida allergies are still kicking my butt. There was a last year
Mike Townsley,
Mike Townsley, yes.
Stephanie Winslow,
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young,
David, yes.
and Julie Burke, yes. So that passes unanimously.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank
I will
you.
let the treasurer know.
My computer is freezing a little bit here too. I see that everybody's a little wonky, so I hope that this is all still working. I can't wait till we can meet back together again. I did see that Ryan Potter had joined, so if no one objects, I would like to give him a few minutes to speak. So you can take it away. Oh, Jeannie has her hand raised.
While you mentioned meeting in person, is this something we can look at for June?
We're waiting to hear on the guidance from the Commonwealth on that. So
Okay.
the original order is still in effect, but I'm really hoping that that guidance will change soon. But
Okay,
I will
was
let
hoping-
everyone know as soon as.
I was hoping because the students are back in class that maybe we
Yes.
could. So that's all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jeannie. All right, Ryan Potter can take it away.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think Michelle was just Jeannie was just talking about it. But I just wanted to thank the committee for giving us the opportunity to be fully back in school starting April 26th. So that's pretty exciting. And I'd also like to let everybody know that we are actually putting on a prom this year, May 21st, which is exciting as well. And it's just nice to see some spring, school activities and festivities happening this year. For obvious reasons, they couldn't happen last year, but it's just nice to see. So that's all. Just thought I'd give a quick update.
That's great. Thank you so much, Ryan. And I think I can speak on behalf of the entire committee. We're so thrilled that you're able to be back and that you can have some of those traditions still happen this school year. Michelle, you have your hand raised. You're on mute, Michelle.
Is everyone getting a chatter, a click, click, click? Does anyone know what that is? I'm sorry, Ryan, I hardly heard you because of the clicking.
No, I was hearing that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it
So
might have been my
everybody
headphones,
should
but
mute.
We certainly are having some connectivity issues this evening. The sound has gone out several times for the live feed. I'm being told that as of right now that the sound is working for the live feed, at least right at this moment. Oh, Tanya thinks it may be my computer. Gosh. Uh-oh. Maybe I can attempt to log in from my phone or something. Tanya, do you want to say you have a fix for me? Or
I would just try to log out and log back in, because when you come off of mute is when it starts. So I would just log out and try to log back in, and if that doesn't work, then maybe just call in on the number.
okay, I'm the host, so I'm afraid that if I log out, everyone will be gone.
It's just if you're technically the host, you just have to let people in that are outside of the PVRSD emails. If they're on PVRSD email, they don't need your admission to the meeting. But I'm not sure what that's going to do for everybody else. So maybe just mute on there and then call in on your phone. That might be the best solution so we don't lose people outside of the PVRSD email chain if there are people on here.
Okay, I will mute my computer and I'll call in from my phone. We'll see if that helps. Hold on one moment.
Did you see the note? Did you see the note from Joan? She
Joanne?
said she's still a host, so you could log out. Okay.
Okay, I will be back, folks.
Mike, is it possible for you to continue a little bit on the agenda or not as the co-chair?
Well, she's back on, so hold on a second.
Okay.
Hi there, I'm back.
Much better.
Yeah, a lot clearer.
Wonderful. I'm so sorry about that.
You're on mute, Julie.
I probably should have asked my kids to help. I was a kid of the 70s. Anyway, our next, can everybody hear me now? Okay. So number 3 in new business is discussion and vote on school choice numbers.
Was Tanya going to present the paper?
I don't have anything to do with the school choice presentation. Usually the principals talk about how they chose their slots or the superintendent.
Yeah, we can have Megan, would you like to start?
Sure. So we are still looking at 2 classes based on our enrollment, our current enrollment, and also considering the number of students, families that chose to homeschool this year just for the pandemic purposes that we're anticipating coming back, or they've already communicated that they're coming back. So based on all of those numbers and projected enrollment, we are running 2 classes of all grades except for 2nd grade. And so we are offering school choice slots in all of those grades that have 2 classrooms because there will be space. My goal was to not exceed 16 in each classroom in the lower grades and 17 in the upper grades if all choice slots were filled, which I wouldn't anticipate, but there is space to do that. So I was being mindful of creating some space for the school choice, for potential school choice students and families, but also maintaining reasonably sized classes so that, for good instruction and also if there are any move-ins. So I think, I don't know if John or if somebody's going to share the document. I can just go through. I have my own sheet here, but I know there was one that Joanne submitted to the committee. What would be most efficient?
There you go.
Okay. So you can see just from that sheet, those are the grade levels that have school choice openings and the number of openings per grade. Are there any questions for Northfield? I feel pretty comfortable with the numbers as they are.
Yeah. Megan, can you keep that up while Kelly and Kevin talk, just so everybody can see the slots available?
Yep, Tanya has that up.
Yeah, I've got it up.
Oh, Tanya, you have it up. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
I'll leave it up there.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, thanks, Megan. Kelly, can you talk about Bernardston?
Absolutely. I also did the same thing. I talked with Megan as well, just to make sure that we were kind of looking at things very similar. And again, I added 2 classrooms that we were going to be having doubles of for next school year. I kept things rather small, and again, small for kindergarten, knowing that we always have a lot more kindergarten students, families moving in. It just seems to be like where the bulk comes from. And so I've kept things pretty small, as you can tell. Again, only really focusing on the classrooms that I have doubles. And I felt pretty comfortable being able to add those. And again, not feeling like I was exceeding too much or putting too much on. Again, allowing some movement, allowing for some move-ins, being prepared for that and being cognizant of that. So that's why the numbers look a little smaller. I don't know if anybody has any questions on that.
I think Robin has a question.
Hi, Kelly. Yeah, I was just wondering, is it the same for Bernardston Elementary School for classroom size 16, or what is your number?
Well, we have a variety of numbers in all the classrooms. Some of our classrooms are at 24 this year. Some of our classrooms are 12 based upon the number of students. So I don't really have a cutoff per se. I do think that when it comes to certain class sizes, it does present rather challenging to be effective with one teacher teaching and 25 or 26 or 27 students. So I don't have a number, if you would, to cut off a classroom at, if that's what you're asking, like where do I break a classroom into 2 classes?
Yeah.
I really look at also what the students' needs are in that class. And so right now our classes in those sizes are at 27 and 30. So, I mean, those are pretty high numbers, especially for kids who are in a pandemic and first graders who are struggling to learn to read. To have 30 of them in one class, I feel like that would be ineffective for their learning styles. So really just trying to provide a split that would be effective teaching, where students could actually have that time to learn with one teacher.
So this is probably a stupid question, but so are those classes split, Kelly, then, the 30?
Can you say that again?
Oh, I'm sorry. Are that classroom that you mentioned is 30, is that split into 2?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Currently we have 2 6th grade classes, because the classes, when you add them together, are 34 students.
Okay.
Like, that's a little unreasonable to put a classroom together of 34 kids.
So
right
is there?
now, we have for kindergarten, which would be our 2 first grades going into next year.
Right.
We had some families make different choices because they really wanted the consistency of the school year. And it was hard for us to say that I couldn't plan the future to know when we would go remote or if we would have remote based upon any type of COVID. So it was really hard to say that we could promise to be open all the time when I couldn't see the future. And so we had families say that they are staying home this year for kindergarten, but will be with us in first grade, that chose to do some homeschool or chose to go to somewhere else, like a private school, because they didn't have those same rules that we did. And so knowing that the numbers are high already going into first grade with what we have, that the 2 first grades are definitely needed.
So is there a district-wide, Jonathan, like cutoff number for each classroom? I mean, there must be a policy somewhere that says not to exceed.
I think the only cutoff I think the district has is for
I
kindergarten.
just was wondering how those decisions are made.
Oh, yes. I think the only cutoff for kindergarten is for kindergarten. And then usually the cutoffs, we can't exceed like 24 students per class. It's kind of the district policy that we've been going with, no more than 24 students per class. And then we look at the dynamics of the class, as Kelly mentioned, and splitting the classes when it gets higher than that.
I do see several hands raised. So we have Michelle, Robin, David, Mike, and Russell. Russell, did you want to go first?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's actually fairly typical not to have, not to have specific numbers per grade, as Jonathan said, because there's a lot of other factors, like how many kids with special needs and that type of thing.
Okay, thank you. Mike, your hand is raised.
Yes, we discussed this, I think 2 budgets ago. The kindergarten is, I believe 24 is the max, and that is in policy. But I don't believe there is a policy above for first grade and up. So it's based on what the classroom needs are. Of course, we consolidated, so that helped us with splitting classes and keeping our classroom sizes low. And that was one of the benefactors for the elementary schools and all students to take advantage of small class sizes. So I think that right now, there isn't a policy that says once you're first grade and on up, there is no policy. It's based on, I think, the principal's recommendation on what the needs are in the classroom.
Okay, thanks, Mike. And David, your hand is raised.
I would note that in the past, we've had a hearing on school choice. Hasn't been much of a hearing, but it's been a hearing. What I want to point out, though, is we're signing up when we vote to offer these school choice slots. We're signing up for potentially that child's career. And I wonder what kind of analysis has been done of what the value or cost to us might be in the future. Because we're talking about guaranteeing a slot for a child for a $5,000 payment, and 22, 23 of those at Warwick Elementary School wasn't sufficient to keep it open. But I want the committee to understand that we've signed, if a child comes in the first grade, we've conceivably said, you've got a school choice home here through graduation. And that could impact our ability to gain efficiencies. It might help, it might not.
Okay, thank you, David. So, do we need to hear from Mr. Burke next?
Yes, Kevin, do you want to talk about Pioneer?
You're on mute, Kevin.
I am on mute. Let me start that all over again. Sorry about that. So at Pioneer, we had a meeting with the school counselors, and we discussed obviously 7th through 12th grade. Our goal was really to open school choice slots up to, on average, about 60 students per class. So when we looked at it, we look obviously at the incoming 6th grade for our 7th grade slots, and so on. When we get up to 11th and 12th grade, we try to limit the slots. We really don't want to bring in too many 12th grade students because that becomes more of an issue of trying to get them graduation requirements and other various things. And obviously our goal too is to, as David was talking about, school choice is a great way for the district to subsidize its funds, but it doesn't necessarily pay for extra classes. So, we're looking at our class averages overall and making sure that this isn't giving us classes of 30, but keeping our classes on average of around 20 to 25.
Right, thank you, Kevin. And John, I don't know if you had anything to add, or we could move to perhaps a motion.
Yeah, I think we could move to the motion.
Okay. Is there a motion on voting to accept the school choice numbers?
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, I had a question. Whoops.
Okay, go ahead, Alan. And I see Raina has her hand raised, but Alan, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I had a question for Russell. Russell, did something change where the because David was correct. There used to be a like a public hearing, so to speak, where you'd review, in like a dedicated part on the agenda. You'd open it up and you review your school choice and your reasons for it and so forth, and then you'd close that, and then the committee would act on the seats, either making amendments or whatever. I've been out for a little bit, so I don't know if something has changed. That's not required anymore.
You need a vote every year on school choice, but
Right.
This, as David is essentially indicating, this vote is indicating that you're agreeing to have school choice again this year.
Okay.
Now, you've put in specific numbers, but that's what this vote will do.
Okay,
But you
so
do-
basically it's a vote to, yeah.
Yeah, I could actually pull up the statute quickly if you want, but you do need to vote every year. It's the bottom line.
No, I realize that, but I thought we had to vote to, do two parts, to continue to participate in the school choice program, that the committee had to vote on whether or not they were going to continue to participate in the school choice, and then they would move to declaring the seats. So that's what I thought we would be doing, but this is fine too.
Yeah, all you've done here is basically combined it into the same vote, which a lot of places do at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Raina, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So is that true that once a student is allowed to choice into the district, that we're guaranteeing them a spot throughout? I think some.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Okay, so do other districts have different standards for that, or is it individualized? Because my
State law requires it.
State law.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah, It probably is also worth noting that once you accept a family under school choice, if there are other seats available, a preference goes to the a student who already has a child in the school choice program.
Thanks, Al and Raina. Nathan, have your hand raised.
Yes, I do.
Sorry, that's unintentional.
Oh, I thought it was me.
Okay. Was that David? David, now your hand's up. Go
Yes,
ahead.
I have my hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Russell, I wonder how confident you are that this hearing can be skipped. It's if perhaps the governor in one of the COVID orders relieved it, but Chapter 76, Section 12B says that the school committee has to admit students from other districts under the school choice program unless there's a vote to withdraw by June 1st. And prior to such a vote, there must be a public hearing on the issue of whether to participate.
Yeah, but you're not voting to withdraw. I mean, if you voted against these numbers and the committee decides they want to withdraw from being part of school choice, then you could do that. But my understanding is tonight's vote is whether you want to continue.
Right.
The hearing would occur if you were going to put on your agenda, we're going to have a hearing to withdraw from school choice. But it's essentially you are in school choice unless you do that.
Okay.
So this would be a vote to continue to stay in, which you don't even need actually, but even if you voted to get out, as I think maybe it was David said, the kids that are already in stay in. They're in through graduation. It would just be stopped.
Their siblings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I see we have Jeannie's hand, Robin's, Megan's, and Nathan. So Jeannie?
Earlier this week under the legals in the Greenfield Recorder, there was a town, and I want to say it was Orange, that had posted something about their school choice. Do you know what that might be all about, Russell?
Did they post maybe the openings? Was that? I didn't see it.
Yeah, I can't recall an accurate answer for that.
Yeah, I mean, usually you post the school choice slots, and if you have more applicants than openings, then there's a lottery, and siblings get first preference.
Okay, but this was under the legal, this was a legal notice.
I don't know, maybe they were doing like a public hearing to decide if they were going to withdraw from school choice potentially.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Robin?
Yeah, I just had a few things. I think in the past that, we usually do advertise our school choice things. So I don't know if that's what you saw, Jeannie, or not. They usually list, what the school choice openings are so people can apply. And the other thing I had a question about, and I wanted to just clarify, as far as the siblings, they do get preference, but they're not guaranteed a spot. They only get preference if there happens to be an opening. So that it isn't automatic that the siblings come. And the other piece I was going to question, just a quick thing, what preschool, what are the preschool numbers looking like, or how do the preschool numbers play in here?
So you're correct about the siblings. And then Kelly and Megan, do you have your preschool numbers handy? Are you talking about for next year, Robin? Sorry, just to clarify, you're talking about preschool numbers?
Yes.
I don't have mine handy, but I would just say the school choice program doesn't pertain specifically to the preschool.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I was going to say the same thing as Megan, that it doesn't pertain to preschool, but we have around 27 interested applicants in Bernardston for preschool.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. And Megan, your hand is raised.
So thank you. I don't mean to rock the boat, but I'm recalling a meeting from maybe a school committee meeting maybe from 3 or 4 years ago, where there was a conversation about the plus 20 at the administrative discretion. And maybe Russell, you would know this, but I thought that there was some conversation then about how we have to be specific as to which grades, and that it can't be anything beyond specific numbers for specific grades. So I'm just recalling a conversation from a few years ago where that was taken off of our posting, and just wanted to throw that out there.
What exactly was taking off? Did
So
you
sorry for not being clear. At the bottom of the this document, it says plus up to 20 additional openings at administrative discretion. And I believe there in the previous school committee meeting many years ago, there was a conversation that wasn't part of the protocol, that wasn't something that we could do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It really should be by grade, how many openings specifically, because you can't pick and choose. And like I said, there's a lottery. So if you said to one family, well, there's, let's say 5 in Northfield in grade 1, and then later another family comes in and says, oh, you know what? Well, we have these 20 extra, we'll pick you. And then the next family comes in and you say, no, that's not the way that's supposed to work, because it's a lottery system. So you're correct, Megan, that it should be a set number. It's a very, the system is very clear that you can't, it's very specific. It must be fair. It must be by lottery. Siblings are the only preference.
I see Tanya has her hand raised.
I was just going to comment on that. Just to clarify, that comment used to be specifically for PVRS, because if there were families that were looking for choice and for some reason we had more slots, particularly I think in the 9th grade, as students decided to go to tech, that we could then accept them in the order that maybe they applied in or something along those lines. Details, but that comment I think specifically applied to just the high school. It wasn't pertaining to the elementary school. I don't remember if you remember that conversation or not, but I just recall that was not under our total. It used to be specifically listed under PVRS the last couple of years, or the first year that I was in district when this was brought up.
Yeah, I don't think it would really matter though, because any way you slice it, I mean, if you have extra kids at any point, you should be going back to those kids that didn't get into the lottery, for one thing. But
okay, and I think we did revote it. Actually, now that you mentioned that, Kevin, I think Kevin Burke, we did have additional slots and we increased our school choice, and we did a second posting. Maybe it was last year or the year before.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, but really, the school committee votes on accepting. The numbers are great. I think the 20 additional spots allows administration to add more slots. You have to follow the lottery anyway. If you have 5 slots and 7 kids and you add 5 more, you have to use the lottery system or the first come first serve, depending on what you have in your district.
I just want to comment, it's not appropriate to have that language, and it should be removed on any future documents.
Tanya, your hand is still raised? Okay. Robin, your hand is raised.
I would agree with Alan. I'm a little uncomfortable with that 20. I mean, I can see if you're telling me, it seems unclear whether that's just for Pioneer or not. And if it's just for Pioneer, I'm not as worried, but I don't like the idea of at discretion to add 20 more additional students. So I think I'd like to put a motion that we remove that from the bottom of this document. Is this the right time to do that?
Yes.
I think you would have to amend,
Well, we are-
Robin, because there's already a motion on the floor. This is Ann speaking.
Okay.
So you would just have to amend the motion to remove the 20 discretionary seats.
I would like to amend the motion to remove the 20 discretional seats. But it's not really clarified to me yet that that's Pioneer only or the entire district.
In the past, Robin, it was meant for Pioneer only, not
Okay.
the elementary schools, just to clarify.
Okay, so maybe that's not necessary then. Okay, if you're telling me that it's just Pioneer, then I'm not as worried about adding 20 students across the higher grades. So I'll
You should
rescind
be.
whatever I was talking about.
You shouldn't have that language at all. So I was going to second your motion. It doesn't make any difference where it is. If you have open slots that come available, you advertise again, because you're still participating in the school choice program. So that shouldn't be on any document.
Alan,
It raises too many red flags.
I just wanted to remind you to raise your hand because other people are waiting to speak as well. Russell?
Yeah, in my opinion, that should not be there. You would have to do another vote to add slots. And it really shouldn't be based on who's coming in at any given time, because that just opens you up to claims of discrimination later. It really needs to be administration comes to you and says, you know what, we had some people drop out. We could add another 5 spots. We post it. You go through another fair process.
Okay, the original motion was to vote on these school choice numbers. I'm hearing, is there an amendment to that? Robin, your hand's raised.
So I guess if on Russell's and also Alan's comments, I guess I will go back to my original motion to amend to remove that language.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Okay. Discussion? Okay, so we'll go ahead and vote.
My hand's
David,
up.
Yep, David, go ahead.
I think we should give the administration the discretion here. They know better than we. And this has long been a practice to give this latitude. And so I'd urge folks to vote against making this change. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Russell, your hand is raised. I'm not sure if that was from before. Alan, your hand is still up. Okay. I just want to add, I think I'm a little confused. I would also like, I wouldn't want to limit our school choice openings. I understand that that there's an obvious reason to cap them so that class sizes don't get too large, specifically in the elementary schools. But if someone else does want a choice in, and we all know that numbers can change throughout the school year as well, you know, if families move or if they move to, you know, a different district or begin a different school. So I guess I'm confused. If we vote on this total here of 88, will that completely prevent any more children from coming into the district? Or would they just need to, would it need to be brought to another vote? So Russell, your hand's raised.
Be another vote, which it sounds like from what Tanya said, you've done before. Otherwise, I guess what I'm saying is you really shouldn't be waiting for somebody to come to you and say, I'd like to be joining the district. It really needs to be the reverse of that. The district is saying, by the way, we have another 5. post it again, let people apply. It can't be when people come in, because you could have, that's certainly putting you into a position where you could get a discrimination claim.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have the motion on the amended vote here on the school choice numbers, with removing the language that states plus up to 20 additional openings. Motion was made by Robin and seconded by Alan. Is there any further discussion, or shall we vote?
Vote.
I don't see any hands raised. Vote. Jim Bell.
I vote no, and I also praise this group for the ability to drag things through ad infinitum.
Okay, so Jim Bell is Raina Dasu.
Raina Dasu, Northfield, yes.
Alan Genevieve.
Alan Genevieve, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Jerusalem.
Michelle Druso, Leiden, yes.
Jeannie Milton.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Robin Knight.
Robin Knight, Leiden, yes.
Karen O'Neill.
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Swartz.
Nathan Swartz, yes.
Mike Townsley.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Stephanie Winslow.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young.
David Young, yes.
Okay, and Julie Burke, yes. Okay, so that motion passes. All right, so our next agenda item here under new business number 4 is discussion and vote on the FY22 budget. Tanya, will you be presenting this again?
I will put up on my screen the budget spreadsheet. My category that we have been looking at. Give me just a second. And I apologize if I make it any bigger. I'll lose either the revenues, expenses, or the comments. So this particular budget is what was presented at our public hearing. And I don't know, John, if you want me to speak to the changes that I have brought forward and recommended, and that Mike spoke of earlier. It doesn't change.
Sure. Yeah, Tanya, you're coming in a little bit staticky. Tanya, we can't hear you clearly. It's just breaking up. Sorry to interrupt. Your computer
There
is
was
just.
some new information
There you
that
go.
is that better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay, sorry about that. So as I've mentioned before, our budget process where we have to try to get our budget done by February 15th is not always in our best interest, because a lot of the information that we receive from the state that affects our budget, whether it be the governor's budget, revenue numbers, or our tuition out numbers, aren't always available to us. And we received pre-enrollment numbers for charter school last week, as well as, like I mentioned, reaching out to Jay Sullivan at the state to find out if the transportation reimbursement percentage had been finalized. So we received 2 new pieces of information that I felt needed to be addressed, since we still hadn't voted this budget in, so that we weren't trying to do budget transfers and make up for them and find places to cover once the school year started. So if John's okay with that, I'm going to go ahead and pull those up and discuss that real quick. Again, it does not change the It doesn't change the total budget. We're just reallocating funds from our tuition or transportation, I'm sorry, to our tuition. So bear with me just a second. I'm going to pull these up for you guys and make them bigger so you can actually read them. So the change that I am presenting has to do with the fact that we received pre-enrollment numbers for our charter equaling 27 students that are going to charter out next year. And the governor's budget, as well as my budget, accounted for lower students than that. So we have historically had 22 students in our charter program out, and that has been consistent as far as we looked back over 7 to 10 years. Most recently, we did have a higher number of students charter out this year, but based on graduating seniors and the number of 7th graders that typically charter out, we were still using that 22 figure. So we have 5 more charter students chartering out, which we need to consume in our expense budget. However, with that information that came out last Thursday, not gonna lie, panicked a little bit, because that's, you know, when you're talking about paying $18,000, $19,000 a student, that's a big increase. So with that, I decided that I was going to try to figure out where our transportation reimbursement was gonna fall, because we had spoke about amending the budget once we knew what our transportation reimbursement was going to be and lowering the transportation budget. So I spent Friday and a better part of Monday working on these numbers and trying to figure out where we were going to fall. And we then also had a call with the overseer. So where we landed was that our transportation reimbursement, I'm going to make this really big so you guys can see my calculations that I did, you know, trying to be completely transparent and make sure we're setting ourselves up for success here with these budgets as they get tighter and tighter. With an expected reimbursement of conservatively 84%, because some schools did not have their end of year reports in at the time that they prepared their first disbursements. We're looking at $587,000 in reimbursement, where our budget was $484,000. So this brings us to excess reimbursement that would move to our regional transportation reimbursement fund of $102,853. We originally only budgeted $15,000 in excess because I specifically had stated that we did not know where that reimbursement percentage was going to fall, because the state hadn't even set a budget and they were still working through these numbers, and we weren't expecting to know them until March or April. So now that we have this information, we are offsetting, as you can see, well, in this column here, our transportation by that full $102,000. The offset piece of that is the fact that we now know we're still going to continue to have a higher number of charter students. And because of COVID and the unsure piece of our choice, because those numbers continue to rise, and unfortunately my calculations are on here, so I'll pull up my Excel sheet so you can see them. But the bottom line is the absolute excess cost for those students was going to be an addition of $40,000 to our budget. But because this was a pre-enrollment figure, we're asking to be able to add some subsidy to our choice and charter tuition budget line, as Mike had actually recommended and asked about at our last subcommittee meeting. So if you bear with me for just 1 second, I'm going to actually pull up the spreadsheet that has the full calculation in it. And again, I apologize, it didn't translate over to the PDF. All right. So let me zoom in real quick on this again. So clarify that when I spoke and thought that the charter tuition had gone up, I was looking at the state's web page and Excel sheet that's very lengthy and kind of cumbersome to follow. And the 25,000 that I was looking at was actually our facilities tuition as a whole, not our per pupil cost. And they had changed up the format of that. And I did not realize that that was not our per pupil cost. So I just want to kind of put that out there. Looking at our cost this year by the number of students we're being charged for, the actual charter per student is $17,880, which is actually a slight decrease from what we've been paying. Multiplied by 27 students for next year is $482,760 plus the $938 per student brings us to $25,000 in facilities tuition for a total of $508,000. Currently in our budget, we have $472,411 for a variance of about $36,000. In addition, our choice budget was $413,000, and the governor's newest estimate for Chapter 70 estimates is $416,175 for another slight increase. With that being said, we need an additional $38,000 minimum added for the expenditure. And in discussions with Rick, John, Mike, and Julie, we decided we were actually going to budget an additional 2 charter students because, again, these are pre-enrollment numbers. And with that large increase from our norm of 22 to 27, we felt that it was important to add 2 additional charter students. And then the balance of the monies that we were going to decrease our transportation budget for the $11,956 would be a choice contingency because we don't typically have contingency built into this budget. If our tuitions go over, usually it's not more than 1 student here or there. Charter might go up 1 and choice might go down. But because of so much uncertainty right now around the enrollment coming out of this COVID year, I think it's important for us to go ahead and be, pretty conservative here. And once we have some more solid enrollment numbers at the beginning of the school year, if it looks like those numbers are going to go down, we can certainly come back to the table with a budget amendment. But I just don't feel comfortable going into next year without making sure these tuitions are completely covered, because I would hate to go to our staff in October or November and say, I have to freeze your budgets because we have 10 extra charter students that are going to cost us, $200,000, and we have to figure this out. So where we haven't finalized our budget yet, and I was able to, in addition to what was published by the state for charter, I was able to get information about our transportation reimbursement. I wanted to bring this forward as part of the budget vote tonight so that we had better figures and we're being more responsible coming out of this pandemic year that we have been in.
Thanks, Tanya. I see John's hand is raised.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Thanks, Tanya. I just wanted to make a few comments here. Just going back to what was discussed at our last school committee meeting. One of my goals coming in as superintendent 3 years ago was to, after programs were cut and teachers were cut, was to revitalize, our district and look at new initiatives, programs, partnerships, with Greenfield Community College and colleges and local businesses to really retain the students that we have and attract new students. And as you can see from these numbers, we're spending a lot of money, sending a lot of money out of the district. I know that one initiative, we've got some great things that Ariel talked about and Kevin Burke at the last meeting with the early college program, happening at GCC, our career and tech grant that we received, and some programs and new classrooms that we're developing with that, as far as, and along with the Innovation Center, new robotics programs and engineering classes. There's some really exciting stuff happening at Pioneer. And I also want to look at the elementary schools. And one discussion and presentation that was made recently was about adding world language into the elementary schools. And I'm not upfront looking to add to this budget, but I just wanted to bring up a few points because I really think the goal here of our administrative team and myself is really to be able to retain our students and attract new students. I would like to, not add to this budget, But I think it's important that we do need to be offering, the opportunities to our students throughout our district. And I really feel that the world language is important to get into the elementary schools. And, I'm confident that we will have funds throughout this budget process. Everybody knows the budget changes to be able to support at some point this coming year, either a half-time teacher, but more ideally a full-time teacher, world language teacher in the elementary schools. And so that would be, I'd like to prioritize that. I have talked to Kevin McEwen since the last meeting, since our presentation about the Flex program. I think it's an important initiative. And that's really the best way to bring it forward. There's other things that have been done in the past. We had a Northfield Mount Herman students and Pioneer students going into our elementary schools a few years ago. That was that's great, and we want to continue that. We've already reached out to Northfield Mount Herman about getting that going again. Hopefully this fall. They have to like everybody wait a little bit to see how the COVID plays out and where they're at, but that's something they're definitely interested in doing. We've contacted the University of Massachusetts and Greenfield Community College and their language programs about adding resources, to our foreign language program that we want to get going here. We're exploring some online foreign language learning platforms for the elementary students that could be used in conjunction with the NMH students and Pioneer students in UMass and Greenfield. And we're also reaching out to colleagues across the globe to see if we can coordinate a distance learning partnership with their schools. So I think initiatives like this are important, and I know we want to be conscious and financially responsible about not adding to this current budget, which I agree with. But I would like, maybe Karen can weigh in as the chair of the Curriculum and Personnel Committee. I think it's important. It's an important initiative to bring forward, something I'd like to support within these existing budget and existing funds as they come forward. I just wanted to bring that up to the committee to see if there was support, because it sounded like the last meeting that almost unanimously people were in support of the world language, but at the same time wanted to be financially responsible and look at the budget and stay within our means, which I agree with. But if we have the funds, I would like to bring that forward at some point for next year and make that happen. And I'm confident we can do that. And I don't know, Karen, if you have anything to add. And if we did that, we of course would come back to the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee, because we'd have to do a job description and really lay out, what that would look like. So.
Okay. Thank you for that, John.
One second though, Karen, because Mike has had his hand raised for quite some time.
All right.
Okay, thank you. You'll be next.
Just to carry on with the conversation, I will let Karen go first, and then I can go after her. Thank you.
Oh,
okay, thanks.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody that we had a unanimous recommendation at a previous meeting from Curriculum Personnel to institute an elementary foreign language program. It reflects what John spoke about, which is having a teacher for this program if we can do it within the budget. And I think most of us agree that it is extremely valuable as a program for elementary school students who will become a part of a much more diverse culture. They are already, and also research supports how it can have a positive impact on what seem to be totally unrelated portions of their academic future. They really can, according to research, surpass their fellow students who've not had early language experience in their understanding of their own language and also diverse other academic subjects. So I support this priority, and I thank you for the second look at it. Mike?
I would like to concur with John and Karen. Before I go into my questions on the budget information that was presented so far. But I think, as Karen said, that the committee voted unanimously the last meeting, I guess we're kind of fortunate the budget didn't go through last time, because now we're addressing an issue that needs to be addressed with the choice charter, which, sometimes things happen for a reason. But definitely in support of the world language program. And I have the confidence in the superintendent that he can make this happen this year. And I know that Karen O'Neill can work with whoever or Ariel, whoever's going to create the job description. That probably should be started now, so we don't wait till we actually find out that the funds are available. But with that being said, the choice charter numbers, as you see, it's $973,854. At the last meeting that we had, I said we were going to probably next year be at $1 million. Well, we're 26,100 and something away from that now. This program would be a good starting point to show the parents in this district that we're going to invest in their students' education. It's the choice charter numbers that we talked about the other day with Rick Kingsley. It was kind of a coincidence. Tanya had said that I brought up at a previous meeting. Well, it wasn't a previous meeting. I had sent an email to Tanya and Julie about choice charter issue on the 29th of March, asking the questions, because I was concerned about our budget. If we passed it, and if 4 students left between the time we passed the budget and the start of this new school year, what that would do to us on the lines that would be taken from to support somebody else's school or town. And literally, I think it was probably 4 or 5 days later or less. I think it was April 1st, I think John said, that the information came from the state. And here we are, we're within $26,000 of $1 million choice charter funds. So this is information that hopefully can steer us in the right direction to make the corrections to hopefully retain our students. If we have choice in, that's kind of a benefit, I think. But we got to retain our students the best we can. And the way you do that is invest in the district. Unfortunately, we had to make cuts 3-4 years ago. We've managed our money, I think, very well. Our E&D is pretty good. Our tuition's pretty good. So we need to start reinvesting. If we had kept programs back when the programs were cut, just think what we could have done with this $1 million, or if we can cut this $1 million in half, what we can do with those funds. We can help the towns, but we can also help the students. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. John, is your hand still raised?
No, I'm sorry. I forgot to put it down.
Oh, no, that's okay. I see Robin and Michelle. So go ahead, Robin.
I know everyone is clear how much I support this world language program, but I also do everything that has already been said, I would say. The other piece that I do want to mention again, though, is that how important it is to support our subcommittees when they do all the work and they make recommendations that they have worked hard at and looked at all the angles and presented. And I think that that is also a very important thing for our committee. And I'm really kind of enjoying this meeting tonight. I think that this is going really well. Also, I do want to just also say that the choice in is not even close to what we're losing. And I've got grandchildren coming up in the system, and I really want them to have the world language. So that's it.
Thank you, Robin. Next is Michelle and then Ellen.
Well, when we're talking about charter schools, I'd like to see what grades that are chartering out. We are talking world language for the elementary schools. If most of our students are chartering out of high school, the data is not comparable. So we just talked about choice, And most of the choice openings that we have is at PVRS, not at the elementary schools, only Northfield. We do not know what's going to happen with Warwick, and we should not be increasing the budget. I would like to remind people, being a member of the budget subcommittee, world language wasn't part of the budget that we were bringing to the public hearing. That was brought up after. So we never talked about it on the budget subcommittee. And the other thing, we spent the first part of this year talking about sixth grade move up. When that was over and delayed, now we start looking at more programs instead of cutting the budget. I am not opposed to world language, but we never talked about what language. And so I think more work has to be done. I, on the budget subcommittee, heard the curriculum coordinator say they weren't prepared for world language. So this whole committee did not hear the discussions that were on the budget subcommittee. And we had a different budget that was coming before you. And I am all for, let's work on goals, let's work on objectives, and let's work together for what's right for the children and the towns, and to be fiscally responsible. So I would like to see what ages charter out. How many are in the elementary school? How many children are leaving our elementary schools because there is not world language?
Thanks, Michelle. We had Alan next. Alan, you may be on mute.
There, so thanks for the reminder. So I'm only going to make a few comments. I have a number of concerns, but we don't have the time to go into all of them. In regards to world language, yes, I understand the world language was in the budget once upon a time, and then it might have been getting too high, and they took it out and they focused on the sixth grade move up, and now they'd like to put it in. I look at, how much input, reach out has there been to the community, to parents and so forth, the kids to see, what they would like to see, how would they like to see it phased in. I'm hearing, and I didn't hear much, maybe I should start tuning into the policy and curriculum, but to hear that there was a unanimous vote and they haven't, it's like the wagon keeps getting in front of the horse. Now they're going to talk about what would the job description look like. That should have already been all part of that conversation. How is it going to be phased in? How is it going to ripple through the rest of the curriculum? So without knowing how it's going to be implemented, they're going to work out the details. I'm sure we'll hear later on as they're figuring out how this will phase into the 7th grade, 8th grade, and influence potential courses. This is all part of the body of work that should be a part of the conversation. It's great that the curriculum and policy said, yeah, you're unanimously behind this. That's great. That's to check the box one. Okay, you've got your endorsement. Now, what has to be done before it comes to the committee? We need for a recommendation or for an action item to have it part of the budget. And then the things that I just heard the superintendent mention, those are all part of a package that should all be presented ahead of time. So I'm just, I'd like the subcommittees to do their work, make their recommendations, but I'd like to see it more complete before it comes to a recommendation for the school committee to take action. So I'll just stop there. I'm not going to support this. Not that I'm against world language. It's got to have more structure to it. And the final comment is, I would be more than happy to take the initiative of if people, and Julie, you wanted me to coordinate this, is to get people's thoughts about what they would like to see as school committee, and what actions would you like to see accomplished over the next 3 or 4 years. I contacted the administrative assistant and said, can you send me what the school committee goals are or have been? And she said, I can't find any. And I think she asked the superintendent, who said he's not aware of any since he's been superintendent. That means if that's true, we're not doing due diligence. If the administrative assistant can't even find the goals of the school committee, then we're being remiss in one of our major responsibilities. So it is a lot of work, but we have a lot of people on this committee who have ideas of what they would like to see. I'd be more than happy to put that all together just as a talking document to then sift through, add to, or whatever, so that we can have some structure and have some purpose and have some direction. So we're not continually doing things piecemeal. So I'll be quiet. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Alan. I'm trying to go in order here. I'm jotting down when the hands are raised. Mike, you had raised your hand again.
Okay, so once again, in order to be successful, you need to invest. Now, it's been said, I've heard it a couple of times in the last 2 weeks. Well, if we do world language, how does that keep kids in the high school? This is a plan to retain kids. To turn something around, it takes you probably a year and a half or two. It's taken us a year and a half to 2.5 years to get to where we are with this choice charter issue. And what we're doing is we're ignoring a problem. Our tax dollars are going to someplace else. $1 million going someplace else that could be invested in our school district. I don't think the taxpayers are going to be too happy with us if we send $1.1 million next year out. We need to take action to correct a problem. And how you do that is you invest in your system. And if we don't invest, we're going to lose more. And we may see more before it gets better, even if we take action now. That's just the way it is. Unfortunately, when we had the budget subcommittee meetings, some people left early. Some people didn't show up at all. They came to the last meeting. People go on vacation, which is understandable. But the world language was in the budget for $55,000 for that position. It was there. If you didn't make the meeting to see it before it got taken out, I can't do anything about that. But I'm sure that Tanya can pull up the spreadsheets and show you those figures if you'd like to see them. But at $973,854 going to choice or charter out, with us being $26,146 away from that $1 million mark, we once again are taking $87,000 of a reimbursement money, potentially, and putting it to another district or charter school. So $87,000. That's what we talked about with Rick Kingsley. Last year we were $30,000 over in choice, but we were a little bit under in charter. I do have one quick question for Tanya, because I know she knows her stuff. If you pull up the expenditure report that we just went through at our meeting earlier, it says tuition choice charter under the line. It says under budget, it says $1,198,198 or $190,198. And then it says tuition, $1,075,612. Balance, $114,586. And this is by category. Tanya, could you just explain that to all of us?
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to bring this up. So The tuition, choice, and charter out, that is the total for those two lines for this year. We have 114,586 left in that line for this particular year. This is one of the areas that I am looking at to possibly need to transfer funds in because our actual charter and charter out is higher than what the governor's budget originally was. So this will be an area where transfers need to happen to cover. So our actual expense at the end of this year will end up higher than that. I'm trying to work with Rob O'Donnell at the state to find out when our final true up number comes out. It typically happens sometime in May, and that's when we get our final enrollment numbers from those charters, because sometimes kids do join those schools during the year, so we end up with partial FTEs and so forth. So that number is the total tuition out budget for the year, choice and charter.
Okay, so if I could just ask you a quick question before I finish up. So we are already at 1,190,196, I think is what it says there, correct? On the budget thing for the per category?
Yep, let me just pull up my,
So we are already over $1 million. I mean, I've been looking at these numbers for about 3 or 4 weeks with this concern. And we just went through this document earlier, and my point is we're looking at these numbers, but I don't think anybody really understands what's going on here. We're paying big money out to a charter or choice, other town or district. And if we cannot see that we have a major problem here and we're not willing to invest in our school system, it doesn't matter what happens here, because everybody else is enjoying the money that we're sending them. And I just don't agree with it. I just can't fathom letting something like this happen and do nothing about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. There are a lot of raised hands. We have Robin next.
Yeah, I have a couple of things, and I lose my track of thought, so I wrote them down. But this this hanging of Warwick over our head is kind of I don't think it's realistic. You know, I was at the district agreement meeting last night, and clearly, and I think it was an eye-opener to all of, at least it was to me, that to leave the district, Warwick has to be approved by 3 towns. 3 towns have to vote to allow Warwick to leave. It could cost them potentially, maybe I misunderstood, but millions of dollars that could be paid out over some sort of negotiated thing. I don't think we should be making decisions based on what if Warwick leaves. It's kind of like a threat that is hanging over our head, and I don't think it's realistic. So there's that. The other thing too is you're talking about the curriculum subcommittee. You know, when I've worked on committees before, you make a decision, and then you have, you know, someone comes to you. I would imagine for the curriculum thing, they come, they do a presentation, they vote on it. It's not their job to micromanage how it happens. They say, yes, that sounds like a great idea. That sounds good for our district. The presentation was good. It was accepted by them. They thought it was well presented. They thought it was well thought out. It's not their job to micromanage every detail. That's what you hire people for. That's what they're paid for. And so I don't think that should be something to hold back. I mean, you can beat something to death, or you can just move forward and, God, make some changes. $1 million? Oh, you can't go on like this. We got to make this school someplace that people are going to be like, I want to be there. And, you know, let's take a step. Let's do it. I promise I won't talk again. Well, about that.
Thanks, Ryan. Tanya, your hand has been up.
So I just want to clarify so that the whole committee understands that this budget number is the same budget number that was presented early on in our public hearings, and there has been changes across lines. There's not a specific line or allocation appropriation in this budget that you are voting on tonight for world language. What John is proposing, and I have been in conversations on, and discussions have been briefly had about is that we will, as we get closer to the beginning of the school year and staffing falls into place, our needs get more solidified, we have maybe better enrollment numbers for what choice and charter students out are actually going to be, that we will take a look at where there's areas that we could pull from once we know our needs of the students in our district next year, and use the things that John's talking about to start the school year, bringing in high school students from other schools, working with Kevin McEwen to put a program together there. And if we have monies in our budget that I can come to you with a transfer to transfer funds to cover a program starting whenever that might look like at the elementary schools next year, that we could then start that program. So we will do our very best to analyze this budget and look for funds within it as things solidify between now and, July, August of next year, to use the budget that we currently have to be able to fund an implementation. What that also does is it allows our curriculum coordinator, our administrators, Kevin McEwen, the superintendent, and the curriculum personnel to look at what that implementation truly looks like. Because as has been mentioned by the curriculum coordinator and John, and there's so many other things that are under planning right now. We have an ELA curriculum that's being put into place. We're trying to plan for a summer program to help students with learning gaps that we have funding through grants for. We're trying to get these kids back up to speed on reading and math so that they can be productive in their core curriculum next year. So we will be looking at this budget as the next school year proceeds. But as John mentioned, between now and when school year starts, there's so many things that change. So that's one of my main reasons that I would like to, part of the new regional agreement that's being brought forward is that we just have to comply with the April 30th deadline for the budget, because it gives us more time to do those planning things and we're not rushed with a February budget. So I just want to be clear that there's not like 35,000 sitting in elementary salaries right now for a world language program. But what John and I are committing to, along with our administration, is looking at how we can use this current budget and analyze it as things proceed to figure out the best way to start an implementation of world language at our elementary school next year. And once we know what that looks like, we would then bring that to the committee and have a follow-up, or however that looks like. And I think John had his hand up to speak to that as well and piggyback.
Okay, John, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to bring it up and echoing what Tanya said is, I'm not, we weren't looking to add to this budget, but one of my goals, and I think our administrative team, one of our goals is to continue looking at offering opportunities for all of our students, and that's all I wanted to say. So it's not adding to the current budget, but I think this is a good initiative. It was presented with quite some detail to curriculum and personnel about how it would be run. Going back to Alan's comments, it would be considered more of a special 30 to 40 minutes a week at the elementary level, once a week. And we had some detailed discussion at that point of how it would look. So again, it's just it's not in this budget. It's just something I want to mention, and other initiatives like this moving forward. It's my job to always advocate and do what's best for our students and create opportunities. And I was just bringing it up during this meeting, as a conversation point, because what I heard at the last meeting, I thought was almost everybody in this committee saying what a great idea and initiative this is, but some members just not wanting to fund it in the budget. So I've been thinking about that since that meeting and saying, geez, if we could do it somehow in our existing budget without adding to the budget, what a wonderful thing. So that's why I just wanted to bring it forward to the committee, because I thought the majority of the committee supported it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Next was Jeannie. I'm not sure if Jeannie's on mute.
I am. I have a couple of things. Michelle, the majority of students go into charter schools, the grades 7 through 12. I'm not sure about the Chinese immersion charter school, if that has younger grades or not. I was just going to look that up when Julie called on me. My next thing, the numbers that you're showing right now, Tanya, what fiscal year is that for?
This is for the one coming up that shows the 27 students that are
Okay, my concern with that is that is, you know, that's the potential number of students right now. I don't believe, I know that Four Rivers has not confirmed their 7th through 12th grades. For
This is the students that have enrolled as of December.
Okay, but that can also change.
And that's why I'm putting contingency in the budget.
Okay. My next question is, you came up with a number of almost $1 million for charter and school choice, etc. How did you come about that number? Because you said that the state said it was going to cost us $17,000 and change per student for each of the charter school students. For 27 students, that's $486,000. The figure you presented was double that.
It's choice and charter both that fall into our tuition. And if you look at the spreadsheet that I have on the screen, you can see both the choice and the charter calculations. And you can see up here, choice and charter, 428 and 545 brings us to the 973.
Okay, the number
choice and charter.
The number, okay, so I hear a lot about the charter. So we have more students choicing out than we do have charters, than we have charter students.
That's not necessarily the case because the cost is not the same. The cost for choice is only $5,000 plus any special ed.
All right, but listen, what I'm saying is that
the cost, yes.
The cost, if it's only 5,000 and the total is over 400,000, that's an awful lot of students.
So there,
special
ed allotments on one of our students is almost $70,000. So
is that a SPED student?
Yeah, so you can't.
So why is that being included with this budget? That should be pulled out.
Our choice tuition out is choice tuition. It doesn't matter whether it's special ed or a regular student. It is a state assessment that we pay through the state, and it comes out of our Chapter 70 every month, and it's part of our tuition budget.
Okay, but I'm just, you know, and we're talking about retaining. So that's a student, for whatever reason, we could not meet the needs in our district for that student.
Not necessarily. They chose to choice out and they have special ed needs. So we're required to pay for their choice out.
And I know that. And I know families that have SPED students that are choosing to send their child to another school that's very expensive, and the town is.
No, that's different. That's out of district tuition that comes out of the special ed budget. That's completely separate from choice, and that does fall under the special ed.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that we've instituted new programs. We've reinstituted programs that we had to be dropped a while ago, and yet we're having more students leaving. So my question is, we're instituting programs to retain that, for whatever reason, are not helping. We're having more students leaving. And I think part of it just has to do with the culture and the nature of the beast. And I think we need to realize that at the same time.
Thanks, Jeannie. Next, we had Karen.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm sure everybody's clear that what John spoke to has nothing to do with increasing the budget. It's the same, and several people have said that. I'm also pretty sure that you know that once a child is in an elementary school and they form friendships and they learn routines and they get to know the district. They are very much more likely to stay with it. So it does not it does not mean that the foreign language program at the elementary school would have no effect on enrollment at the high school. In fact, it might help students choose 2 languages to learn instead of 1. It might help them to go much further with a language than they would have otherwise if they had not had elementary exposure. So there would be lots of reasons for students who learned foreign language in elementary school to continue on in the same district. And someone spoke to the need to find out why people send their kids to choice or charter. I don't think we have a means to really answer that question. I don't think we have a standardized way that is within the law where we could go and ask all those people why they made that decision. So we can't gather that kind of data. We can only go with what we think is best for our students. And I continue to think that this is a really good move. And I thank the people who have worked on it and have made a beautiful presentation to the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee, and whom we chose to support. I know that a majority of this school committee registered their support for it at our last meeting. And I would like to think that you still do. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. Next we have David and then Raina.
So I wanted to address the misconception that with respect to Warwick leaving, we have an opinion, a legal opinion that says that Warwick initiated its departure under the current district agreement, and therefore that district agreement and not any future district agreement will govern. And we could hear from Russell on that. But I'm pretty confident in our legal basis there. It is true that the new district agreement would require the approval of the other member towns, but you don't get to change the rules in midstream. I want to thank folks for clarifying that this budget doesn't further grow the budget. I'll support it, and I hope we can get to a vote soon. I just want to address what I heard from Mike tonight, and I've heard over the years about the unfairness of all the outflows of funds from our district. I don't agree. It's parents and students are not prisoners of geography. There's competition, there's choice, and there's charter, and there's Franklin County Tech School. And this is not a bug. It is a design feature, and it's really designed to make us better. Competition's the basis of our economy, and I don't really think that we want to be back in a monopoly situation because it didn't serve a lot of students. But it's getting late, and I'd like to vote for this budget before I have to leave.
Thank you, David. And I agree. You know, I was going to announce that, you know, we are quickly approaching our 9:30 deadline before we would need to start and, you know, have another meeting next Thursday. Raina, you can go ahead. I see your hand is raised, and Tanya.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. I just wanted to clarify so that I guess it's a question for Tanya. The transportation budget, it sounds like the reimbursement was higher than was expected, and that's the offset for the increase in the choice and charter amount?
Correct. So
Okay.
we, in addition to what was absolutely needed for the choice and charter increase, we are proposing that we do build in some Sorry, I'm trying to find my spreadsheet that I have 1,000 things open. We are putting some contingency in here for additional choice in charter because there is some uncertainty in that right now. And I did want to, and kind of this follows up on your question, actually, just follow up with the data and the comment that Jeannie made. If you look at our choice sending, actually, I think some of the things we are doing in the district, even though it's not bringing us more students, our kids coming in is decreasing. Our choice out actually did decrease this last fiscal year. So I think some of the things we are doing is decreasing our kids sending out, but we need to continue to work on that. But maybe it will help us bring students in as well. I don't think we filled all our choice slots that we published or that we put out there last year. So I just wanted to give that piece of information because I had it handy from an analysis we did when we were talking about the choice and charter, to give Jeannie that information that we are actually decreasing the number of students we're sending out, and hopefully we can continue to decrease that number by building our programs and supporting our students within the district.
And then I also had another quick follow-up question, and just in terms of the latest COVID relief package, would any of that funding that's available have an impact on what we're budgeting or what we're able to do?
Anything that comes
if anybody's guess.
That's okay. It's a big question because unfortunately, all of the ESSER grants that they're being called ESSER 1, 2, 3, state coronavirus release, they have very specific uses. They have to be for learning gaps and sanitation and things that are specific to COVID, but they are not meant to supplement our budget, because then all that, if we were to use them to supplement our budget, if anything in our budget fell under the available uses of those funds, we would then be putting our towns in an even worse situation, because then we'd be saying, oh, well, we paid for this with a grant next year, but now we're adding 120,000 or however much back to the budget. But it is not meant to cover recurring salaries. It's going to be to cover things like summer programs, after school tutoring programs, things to cover learning gaps, additional sanitation and mental health staff to bring these kids back into full service education next year. So anything that comes out of those are going to be 1 year only funded if they do cover any salaries. So nothing to supplement the budget. The only thing that, in addition to those that we're looking at right now, is our rural aid that was just announced about 2 weeks ago for this fiscal year. So we'll be bringing that to a vote for May, but that is going to be to help fund some projects and things, again, that kind of have been left to the wayside and haven't made their way into the budget. So we're trying to use our rural aid to cover those one-time costs, but grants are never meant, unless it's a recurring grant, to cover or supplement your budget.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just thinking in terms of like an after-school language club or, summer.
Yeah, and that would actually fall under student activities because it's considered extracurricular if it was outside of our education hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Raina. Nathan, your hand is raised.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really good discussion, and I voted for the world language in the elementary schools and the subcommittee, and I think it's a great program for the elementary schools. But I think Michelle had a good question, and I'd like Jonathan to respond to it. How does world language in the elementary schools keep kids from going to tech or to a charter school? Thank you.
Yep. So to answer your question, will it keep them from going to tech or charter school? It may or may not. I think there's a lot of, advantages to introducing world language, and those are discussed at the Curriculum and Personnel Subcommittee to our elementary students. I think it's a great program. It could change the course of what we offer at our middle and high school as far as languages. So if you're, I think the recommended language by Kevin McEwen was Spanish. That seems to be the most used language in our area geographically. So what it could do is, if a student learns that or studies that for a course of 6 years, they have a pretty good understanding of that language. And Kevin McEwen was saying at that point they may choose to opt for a different language in middle school. So maybe that's something that we add, like Latin, for example. We have French now, or it could be Italian or something else. So that may be an opportunity for them to want to learn a second language and stay in our schools. So, and I agree with David. I mean, there's choice. Like, people have a choice for private schools. I know private school numbers, just like college numbers, they have doubled. Applicants have doubled or tripled or quadrupled this year with COVID. So yeah, will it stop them? No, not necessarily. I agree that everybody has a choice in schools, but I think that we always, we want to continue to offer the best we can offer to our students and provide them with, a quality education, which we do, and that's reflected in our MCAS scores. I think we're second. The last MCAS scores were second only to Four Rivers. In our area, we're very competitive with all schools, not only in Western Mass, but in the state. But I think, beyond just, retaining students, and, you build everything from the bottom up. So it's important to attract. We have a lot of young families that have moved into Leiden and Bernardston recently. That's why, with the sixth grade talk, we talked about freeing up, some space to maybe add another preschool program or kindergarten. So we're hoping that if we can get the students in at a younger age and offer them really good education, as we're developing programs at Pioneer, and which were talked about by Ariel and Kevin Burke, that as a district, we will have more to offer and more opportunities, for our students overall, which hopefully, they want to continue in our district to be educated here. So I think, it's a great initiative. I think it does, offer a lot to our current students. And hopefully, as we develop these other programs at Pioneer, it'll be a destination that people want to stay and come to. So I hope that answers your question, Nathan. And I'm thankful that, you're in support of it. And the only reason like I said, I wanted to bring it up tonight was not to add to the budget, but to simply, I thought it was something that the committee as a whole was almost unanimously in favor of. So that's why I wanted to bring it forth to say, I really think this is a great initiative to move forward. So I'll stop talking. I know you probably want to vote on the budget soon.
Yeah, just to remind, it's almost 9:30, guys.
Yes, absolutely. That was going to be my my next statement here. So we have 3 hands raised. In the interest of time and really wanting to respect that time and have us all have our wits about us, is anyone ready to make a motion on this current budget?
Yes, but point of order.
Okay.
Just, I'm hoping we do that. And the number I think that we had was the 14,851,290. My question, because I'm ready to vote and support this. My question is, do you want to provide the clarification, Julie, that you had regarding how we're going to proceed? Because we had a debate at the last meeting. It sounds like now we have a nice, simple way to do that. So if you could explain that, then we could make the motion to tailor what you learned.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alan, for that reminder. So there was some question at our last budget meeting as to whether or not we had to vote on each individual line item. Oh, thank you, Tanya. So she has them pulled up here. We had a phone call, I think the day after the meeting. It was very prompt after the meeting to receive clarification from our overseer, Rick Kingsley, about this and to discuss it. So we only need to vote each line item here that you see on your screen if there is a known conflict of interest. Since we know that we have a known conflict of interest with one of our members with the athletics line, what we will do is we will have that member recuse themselves or just leave the meeting momentarily. We will vote on that line item separately. And then as long as that line item passes, we will bring him back in. Well, regardless, we will bring that member back in, and the rest of the lines will be voted on in total. We don't need to go line by line. I hope that is clear. Russ could probably help if it's not. Okay, good. Mike,
Just a quick question for Tanya. Do we need to vote on the 87,000 to move reimbursement money to the tuition line?
Nope. And it's not moving it to the tuition line. What we're doing is we are in this particular budget, it's just changing the tuition and transportation line. And if you look at my notes over here, it's already included in our by category. So you're not voting anything. Our school committee already took a vote last year that any excess reimbursement in our transportation over the budgeted amount automatically goes to that regional transportation reimbursement fund. So when you look at the transportation budget, you see that I increased the offset in the non-budget line to equal that excess, which brings that budget down. And then it increases the tuition line here. So there's no additional vote that needs to be taken. It's just those subcategories that changed are reflected in the category amounts here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you want, I can move the budget of $14,851,290 with the understanding that the superintendent will continue to monitor the funds and bring us information if there's funds available for world language.
Is there a second? Or Russell, your hand is raised.
Yeah, you would need to move to vote the athletics line item.
Oh, yeah.
First.
We did just say that, didn't we?
Well, if you want. If you want, I can move the athletics line of 164,300.
Second.
So I believe that Jim will need to leave the meeting.
Does Jim need to leave, or does he just abstain from voting?
He should act. What they recommend is that he actually leave, and then he can come back. Somebody could text him a speech.
Happily.
I don't think you'll need to be gone for long, Jim. All right. So do we have a second?
Yes, I seconded it.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, discussion. All right, we will go ahead and vote on athletic line. Raina Dastu.
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Alan Genevieve.
Alan Genevieve, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Geruso.
Michelle Geruso, Leiden, yes.
Amy Milton.
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Robin Knight.
Robin Knight, Leiden, yes.
Karen O'Neill.
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Nathan Swartz.
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Mike Townsley.
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Stephanie Winslow.
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young.
David Young, yes.
And Julie Burke, yes. So the athletic line passes. So if someone could please notify Jim that he can come back.
I can let him know, Julie. If you give me a minute, I'll give him a call. Yeah.
Okay.
So now we can vote on the whole thing, correct?
Yes. We'll just wait for Jim to return so he can hear the motion.
Okay, Jim's coming now. He's just joining now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Jim is back with us. Do we have a motion?
I can move the budget of 14,851,290 for the budget of FY22 with the superintendent to monitor this budget within this budget line to see if funds become available for world language.
I second that. This is Karen.
And to be clear, that's the operating and capital budget.
Thank you, Alan.
In the motion, just so it's clear.
Thank you. Okay, discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. Jim Bell,
Jim, yes.
Rena Dastu,
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Alan Genovese,
Alan Genovese, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Geruso,
Michelle Jeruso Leiden, yes.
Jeannie Milton,
Jeannie Milton, Bernardston, yes.
Robin Knight,
Robin Knight Leiden, yes.
Karen O'Neill,
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Nathan Swartz,
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
Michael Townsley,
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Stephanie Winslow,
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
David Young,
David Young, yes.
and Julie Burke Northfield, yes. Yay! Wonderful. So
Thank you, guys.
yeah, thank you. All right. So that budget passes. Wonderful. And the last item that we discussed was actually going to be part of an executive session. I believe that this discussion may be able to be held, though, publicly. Could you clarify, John or Russ?
Yeah, I had asked Russell, in the interest of time, if we could, since this MOA has been voted on twice by the committee, if we could do it publicly, and he said yes. The intention of the MOA was for it to be retroactive back to October of 2020 for the IAs to receive the extra $5 per hour if they were serving the capacity as the only adult in a classroom if a teacher was teaching remotely. It's just a few IAs. It's something this committee's already voted twice in supporting. So Russell wanted to just add that language in section number 4 where it says $5 per hour for the time period in question, retroactive to October 1st, 2020. That's the only change to the MOA. So I'm hoping it's a quick vote in support because the instructional assistants have been doing a tremendous job this year.
Okay, Mike, your hand was raised.
I will have to recuse myself from this vote. So if you don't mind, I'm going to step away from this meeting. If you want, you can call me back to adjourn, but if not, don't call me back. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya, your hand is raised.
I don't know that Mike needed to recuse himself just because it does not have anything to do with the pay scale for the cafeteria staff. It only has to do with actual instructional assistants filling in for teachers. I don't know if Russ.
Do you know, Russ?
Different category of employee, so it would have been fine, actually.
Let me just.
Can I make a motion that we approve? Julie, can I make a motion we approve the MOA for the support personnel as amended by the district's attorney?
I'll second it.
Okay. Just for legal reasons, do we need to inform Mike that he's able to come back, or can we move forward?
You could let him know. I don't know that he seemed to have a big problem with leaving, but
Okay.
nope, he's back.
Oh,
He's
good.
back.
All right. Okay. So if you could just restate your motion, Alan.
I would move that we approve the MOA with the personnel, support personnel as amended by the district's attorney.
And I believe we had a second.
Yes, I second it. Michelle?
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All right, we'll move for a vote. Jim Bell,
Jim Bell, yes.
Raina Dastu,
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Alan Genevieve,
Alan Genevieve, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Geruso,
Michelle Caruso Leiden, yes.
Jeannie Milton,
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes.
Robin Knight,
Robin Knight Leiden, yes.
Karen O'Neill,
Karen O'Neill, Leiden, yes.
Nathan Swartz,
Nathan Swartz, Warwick, yes.
okay, thank you. Mike Townsley,
Mike Townsley, yes. Bernardston.
Stephanie Winslow,
Stephanie Winslow, Northfield, yes.
I believe David Young left. David? Okay, and Julie Burke, Northfield, yes. All right, so there wasn't any other business on the agenda for this evening. Our next regular school committee meeting will be on May 13th, 2021 at 7 p.m. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. This meeting really was a pleasure. I was greatly appreciative of the respectful dialogue that we all had. So I look forward to our next meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, sorry,
Julie,
Alan.
point-
Yes.
Yeah, one other thing under other business is I wanted to just loop back. We don't have to do it tonight, but I really would like us to think as a committee on really doing something about goals and objectives. And I did offer to do something. I will follow that up with you with a conversation and see what your thoughts are and how you think it would be best to move forward on that initiative for the committee. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Alan. I will I'm sorry, I'm tired right now. I agree with you 100%. I would like to work on that. Mike.
Julie, I'd like to thank you for your professionalism the last couple of meetings and such a short time that you've been part of the committee, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Robin.
I just had a question for Russell, but I can email him. So.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. And remind me one more time, do we need to have a roll call to adjourn or no?
I would just ask if anybody objects.
No,
Okay.
Nobody objects.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You have to take a roll call vote. You're
Yeah.
supposed to take a roll call vote, Julie.
roll
Yeah,
call.
yeah.
It's roll call for
Okay.
every vote when
Yes.
you're in a remote meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right. I will remember that for next time too. Okay. To adjourn, we have a vote here. Jim Bell?
I think he's already left.
Jim's already left.
Okay. Guess that's his vote. Raina?
Raina Dastu, Northfield, yes.
Alan Genevieve?
Alan Genevieve, Warwick, yes.
Michelle Geruso?
Michelle Caruso Leiden, yes.
Jeannie Milton?
Jeannie Milton Bernardston, yes. Oh, and just as a follow-up, the Chinese Immersion School has kindergarten through grades 12.
Thanks, Jeannie. Robin Knight,
Robin Knight, yes.
Neal,
Karen O'Neill, yes.
Nathan Schwartz,
Nathan Schwartz, Warwick, yes.
Mike Townsley,
Mike Townsley, Bernardston, yes.
Stephanie Winslow,
Stephanie Winslow, yes.
and David isn't with us anymore, and Julie Burke Northfield, yes. Now we can officially say goodnight.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Nice.